NFL topic that I wanted to address that I thought was kind of interesting. So on Colin Cowherd's show, he had Albert Breer on, and they were talking about trying to upgrade a quarterback. So they were citing like San Francisco and Kansas City. When they had Alex Smith and they got Mahomes, and then teams that have they've basically gotten a solid quarterback, and then they wait for the opportunity, and then they upgrade, which is kind of like in the NBA when you just collect assets and you keep getting good players, young players on your team, so that when the time comes to make a trade for the superstar, you can do it. So they were making the argument that this is like you're much better off, trying to be solid at quarterback, and then waiting for the opportunity to upgrade,
right.
And take advantage of it when it comes along. And listen, so I agree. I get what they're saying, right? Like you don't want to just be bad and then try to see if you can get one in the draft and then kind of hope and you want your team to be good while you're trying to find that guy. And I get what they're saying. It makes sense. But the problem is they're talking about teams that are smart and well run and do things the right way. The Chiefs, the 49ers, the Vikings, teams that are relatively right, that, their organization is well run. They draft well. They have a good foundation, right? But what about half the league that doesn't have that, right? As Dolphin fans, we don't have that. We don't have a solid organization where it's like, oh, we'll just get, a Matt Ryan or a Kirk Cousins or a Phillip Rivers or a Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll just get one of those and then we'll upgrade when the time is right. Like Kansas City, we'll make the playoffs with Alex Smith and then we'll trade up and get Mahomes. And it's like, yeah, that's great. That works for them. Sure. Right. But my argument is, we're the Dolphins. Like, we're not well run. Our owner's, suspended right now because he can't stop doing dumb shit. Okay? So the only chance the Dolphins have is to draft a quarterback because it's not likely. Well, and listen, Miami we actually have a chance at getting some of these quarterbacks who might want to get away from their team because they want to come to Miami. Most places don't have that.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to go to Jacksonville, or Cleveland, So it's like the only chance the Dolphins have is we've got to hit on a quarterback. That's it, because that's the only thing that's going to sustain us, because we're not going to be great at everything else. Right. So it's like it's a great argument for people that have already made it. They've already figured out. They already have a great life, and it's like just work harder, you'll get there. And it's like I wish it were that easy.
Yeah, well, and I think what gets lost is, and this doesn't just apply to football. This applies to a lot of other things. What gets lost is the confluence of events that often has to happen to have like a great team or a great organization in football, or just a business in the business world, right? So, I mean, the Patriots, like, okay, they hired Bill Belichick. They have a really bad first year. They start off 1-2 the next year. They have an injury, and then this 6th-round pick, who they probably shouldn't even have drafted because they had Drew Bledsoe, turns into the greatest quarterback of all time.
Right.
Okay? Who also decides he doesn't need to get paid the maximum amount of money. He takes less money to allow them to keep more players. Okay? So you have that. Kansas City, Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles. They were really successful. They had a bad year or a bad couple of years, and so then they fire him, so he's available. So then you get him, and then you have Alex Smith there, so you're winning, and then you're able to draft Mahomes because other teams didn't draft him, and then it turns into what it turns into. Josh Allen, it took him a few years to develop into the quarterback that he is now. And fortunately they were able to, they got him, and then they had the right Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator, and then they were able to, keep getting other players. They trade for Stephon Diggs, and now they're kind of set now for the next 10 years,
Right.
But it's not like these things just, that's one of the most annoying things for regular people like us when we listen to really successful people talk about some of this stuff, is they just go, well, they were just really smart and they just worked really hard. yeah, but some things went your way, and then they're like, well, you got to be smart to capitalize on them. Well, sure, but things did go your way. There's other organizations where things don't go your way, and then people go ahead.
Well, and it comes from the top, right? It's the ownership on down to everything else. So when you have when you're flawed at the top, the only way to overcome it is to just, manage to hire a great coach, manage to get a great quarterback. Like, you're not going to overcome it with the Dolphins are not going to overcome things with their organizational stability.
Yeah.
They have to do it with, the key players that make up for it. And they don't have that. So it's like, and listen, I know nobody likes tanking, and I don't think tanking will really it's not really going to have a good place in the NFL just because it's hard to do. But I know nobody wants to hear it. It works. I hate to say it. It works. I apologize for everyone who's mad that that's the case, but that's the case. You have to get a high enough draft pick to get a great quarterback. It's very hard. The Rams just managed to stumble into Stafford. Like, they got lucky that their owner was like, all right, let's do it. Was willing to take a swing at it. Everybody's not going to do that. So it's yeah, I get what they're saying, and yes, it makes sense. It's better for the fans if you try to win. You try to do the best you can until you can find that guy. Just because there's so few of them, I understand that. But
it's more complicated than that. That's my overriding point. It's more complicated than that, and people don't want to talk about it because it's almost like I'm saying, well, you're just saying that they're lucky. Well, in part, yes, they are. And by the way, you see this throughout sports. In the NBA is a perfect example of this because in the NBA, there's only in the draft there's only a few really, really great players, and you got to be bad in the right year and then draft them. You got to get, and this happens in the NFL too, but a classic example of this is the Miami Heat drafting Dwayne Wade. The Detroit Pistons, I don't know why, decided to draft that guy Darko Milicic, who sucked, and then the Miami Heat get Dwayne Wade, and the rest is history. So.
Yeah, that's funny you brought that up because now there's this NBA prospect from France. His name is Victor Wembanyama. I believe that's how you say it. And it's insane. Teams are going to be – you watch what happens this NBA season. After the All-Star break, teams are just going to be falling all over themselves to lose as many games as they can. It's going to be a freak show. Just wait. Yeah. The last 2 months of the NBA season are going to be a joke. There will be scheduled wins for everybody. It will be absolutely insane, okay? Because this guy, he's 7'4". He's like a combination of Giannis, Kevin Durant, and Rudy Gobert, okay?
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane, okay? And there's 2 or 3 other players in this draft that are supposed to be really good too, but, this is just going to be tank job, of all time. So, anyway, I understand in football it's much harder to do that. Although, this is the part that bothers me about the Dolphins owner. Yeah, he had the right idea. That was the right idea. Let's lose games and let's get the number 1 pick so we can get Joe Burrow. That's the right thing to do. But the problem with that logic is he hired the wrong coach if that's what you're going to do. So it's like you can't even figure out the plan in order to manipulate the system correctly because you're so stupid. Anyway, all right. Yeah. So that was